Hello, welcome to episode 12 of the Solo Sideline. I'm your host, Connor. Reminder to like, rate, subscribe to the pod on any podcast services. An announcement this week. I'm going to be taking a few weeks off since it's the downtime of the NFL and NBA. I'll be back in August to break down training camps, get ready for the preseason, and finally announce where LeBron actually signs. Please engage with me on Instagram or Twitter. My name is the Solo Sideline, and I want this podcast to be all sports and no fluff. Some fluff items that didn't make the cut today. Last week was the 4th of July, but the bigger news is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce officially tied the knot and now are husband and wife. We know Adam Sandler officiated the wedding. I'm glad Travis was able to make one wedding decision. Staying with Travis Kelce, he was named to the NFL's top 100 list, but he came in at number 79, which is a drop of 42 spots from last year. He was 37 last year, and in 2024 he was ranked even higher as the 9th best player. So 1 year he dropped from 9th to 37th, and then the following year he dropped from 37th to 79th. His ranking among players is in free fall. It's a good thing he put a ring on Swift's finger this weekend before he falls off the top 100. We saw the red card for U.S. player Florian Balogun get dismissed Sunday. People had mixed reactions because red cards typically aren't reviewed and dismissed in the World Cup. It was reported that the Trump administration made calls and requests to reverse the red card to the head of FIFA. He ended up playing a role in the reversal, and with politics being so polarizing, people wanted the U.S. team to sit Balogun. Now, we're recording this after the game, so we already know the U.S. team lost and by 4-1. So sitting him or playing him didn't really matter. But my fellow media member, Dave Portnoy, stated any person who feels like the U.S. should sit Balogun should be deported. It is about winning, and politics shouldn't get in the way. Keep in mind, though, this is the same guy, Portnoy, who wanted France to beat the U.S. in the gold medal men's U.S. basketball tournament in the Paris 2024 Olympics, all because Tatum, who was a Boston Celtic, was benched for multiple games. So Portnoy lets his own personal fandom of an NBA team and his hurt feelings over Tatum being benched sway his patriotism, I guess, and wanting to have France beat and dominate the U.S. I'm not really sure I'm going to take rooting advice from Mr. Port. And as I just said, it doesn't really matter because the U.S. men's soccer team decided not to show up and lost 4-1. I did call that their ceiling was advancing past the knockout round, so advancing to the semifinal or the quarterfinals, and then they decided to lose in this one, which was really their floor. So they had a lot of hype, and they did exactly what we all thought they were going to do before the World Cup started. Then they started beating up on teams that probably didn't really belong there and got everyone hyped up and thinking that they could actually pull off some sort of miracle run. Well, the U.S. is just too far behind. And now some quick hitters. The NBA offseason really started last week with free agency and trades. And to recap some of the bigger items from last week's episode, Ja Morant was traded to the Trailblazers, LaMelo Ball was traded to the Timberwolves, and Austin Reeves re-signed with the Lakers on a max deal. And the big news was LeBron decided not to re-sign with the Lakers. On Wednesday, there were a flurry of moves. The Lakers filled out their roster by trading for Walker Kessler, who will be their starting center during Luka's tenure. They traded away 2 unprotected first-round picks and then 2 more first-round pick swaps, then signed Kessler to a 4-year deal worth $130 million. After getting their big move out of the way, LA agreed to terms for Sandro Mamu, Quentin Grimes, and Colin Sexton. Each deal includes a player option, which isn't really ideal for teams since by the time that option year comes around, the player could be past their prime or below what their really market should be, or that contract price is. So that's definitely more beneficial for the players. And I think the Lakers overpaid for Kessler and actually each of the other following players that was signed afterwards. But that's the price to pay when it became common knowledge that this summer was going to be the big summer and trying to keep Luka happy so he doesn't ask for a trade. Luka's super happy with the moves, especially re-signing Austin Reeves and then signing an elite rim protector in Walker Kessler. The thought may be to have the Lakers sign a difference maker or fill a hole in the roster by every chance, meaning in the offseason and the trade deadline. That way they can become title contenders in a year or so. They can't continue to punt every season while Luka's in his prime. The Lakers were really good at punting when they had Anthony Davis and LeBron. They went sort of all in when they traded for Russell Westbrook, and that trade didn't work out. They actually missed the playoffs, and they had some probably internal issues. And then ever since that trade, the Lakers really were hesitant to try and trade Russell Westbrook to move him to get assets, and then we're hesitant to make any moves really to help LeBron really contend for a title. So happy they're doing it for Luka. It's about time that they do something. The free agents that LA actually signed, though, are good fits on paper, and the players fit what the Lakers need. But the issue is that LA signed them for slightly above market price and gave each of them a player option. From an outsider's view, you should be able to choose either paying above market price or doing a player option. But LA did both. Rob Pelinka, who's the GM of the Lakers, seems to always mismanage assets and loves giving out player options. For those who care, the Lakers had Alex Caruso, who's now a big part of what OKC does, and he can defend all 5 positions. The Lakers decided to keep Talon Horton-Tucker, who's actually out of the NBA now, instead of Caruso. Then the Lakers were hesitant to attach a draft pick to get rid of Westbrook, like I just mentioned. They drafted Jalen Hood-Schifino, who's also out of the league. They drafted Dalton Connect, who can't get in the lineup. And they're afraid of trading draft picks and missed on those picks. And now that they went all in and traded away all their draft picks when they ideally should have kept one to trade for a wing player. I'm a fan of these additions for LA, just not at these price points. Now, Jaylen Brown was traded from Boston to Philadelphia Wednesday afternoon. As a reminder, Brown was the former Finals MVP for Boston. He had just led the Boston team that many had thought was a bad team, who would have had a top 7 pick in the playoffs, and specifically he got them to the 2nd seed with 56 wins. Boston received Paul George, 2 first-round picks, and 2 second-round picks for Jaylen Brown. That's not really a good haul for a former Finals MVP who's 30 years old. Paul George is 36, has a checkered past with injuries, actually was suspended last year for performing-enhancing drugs, or PEDs. And Brian Windhorst reported that the 76ers, if they were just trading Paul in a vacuum, would have to attach a first-round pick to George to trade him, which then means, in essence, the Celtics received a single first-round pick and swaps, which aren't that valuable for a former Finals MVP that is 6 years younger and doesn't have an injury history. The 76ers now have a lineup of Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, Dean Wade, and Joel Embiid. The big question is, how many games will Embiid play and be healthy for? If he's healthy, that lineup is great, and probably the 2nd or 3rd seed at worst in the East. And Philly has officially entered the LeBron James sweepstakes. They made their win now move with the Brown trade, and they can make LeBron the power forward instead of Dean Wade. And that team would probably become instant favorites in the East. On the other side, Boston had to have felt some pressure to trade Brown. That trade was just selling a player for no value at all. The season doesn't start tomorrow, and they could have held on to Brown to get more value later on. I feel like we're really missing something that happened behind the scenes. Brown made some comments this past season that raised eyebrows. During the playoffs, he mentioned it was hard to come out and play right after learning Tatum would be missing the game 3 hours prior to tip-off. Well, that statement's actually not true. It was reported that Tatum would be out for the game the prior day. And then after the season ended, after blowing a 3-1 lead to Philadelphia, he said this was his favorite season. And then for some reason you trade your player to the team that literally just beat you in the playoffs. Boston now has Jason Tatum and Paul George as their two main stars, and will be taking a step back after this year. They weren't supposed to be good last season, and in large part was good due to Brown's amazing play. Then you trade that player, and you probably get worse. The Celtics will be seeded probably 5 through 8 come playoff time, and will probably be another early round playoff exit. And that's the best case scenario. George has 2 years remaining on his contract, $54 million this year, and then a $56 million player option for the 27-28 season. Going back to the player options, Paul George is probably going to pick that up, and the only way he declines it is if there's already some sort of handshake agreement that he's going to re-up with Boston just at a lower number for more years, so it's more security. Either way, they're trapped with Paul George for the next 2 years at least. And then in the past 2 seasons with Philadelphia, Paul George has only played a total of 78 games. Now, part of that's due to that 25-game suspension due to the PEDs, but the other part is his injury history. The Celtics signaled they aren't willing to go all in with Tatum after he's a year removed from an ACL injury, but he's only 28 years old. Maybe another move's lined up or will happen with the draft picks they received, but I really doubt it. Boston was just in on Giannis, which would be a win-now move, and then made this one. It's definitely a head-scratcher. This week, our main topic is LeBron Watch. We are going to talk about the 10 teams that were mentioned on a podcast called Game Over. And that's a podcast that his agent, Rich Paul, is a co-host on. And they brought out a whiteboard, and it showed the 10 teams and just like the process that they're going through to see which of the 10 teams is the better fit, which ones are already sort of eliminated and the reasons why, all of that. So the 10 teams were the Warriors, the Cavaliers, the Heat, Mavericks, 76ers, Celtics, Timberwolves, and Nuggets. Then the 2 that were on the board but already sort of eliminated were the Spurs and Knicks. Just briefly going over those 2, the Spurs and the Knicks. The Knicks aren't an option since they just won the championship, and if they don't repeat with LeBron on the team, it would be talked about and judged in a way that would be unfair. He's already held to a higher standard than any other player who's 41 years old and going into their 24th season. And the Spurs just aren't an option, as the roster doesn't really need him, and they were also just in the finals. But, in my mind, seeing LeBron and Wemby on the same team would be pretty cool. So now we're going to go over the other 8 teams that were listed. And then we'll talk about where I hope LeBron ends up, and then where I think he's actually going to end up. So starting at number 8, the Celtics. As we just talked about, Boston traded away Jaylen Brown for Paul George, which is not a win-now move, but more like a kick the can down the road and trade George again, but after the season for a better win-now move. LeBron won't see it as a win-now move because it's not, and he'd be going from the Lakers to the Boston. Now, for those that don't know, those 2 teams have had a rivalry since the literal NBA logo Jerry West was playing in 1962. The Lakers and the Celtics have had a ton of matchups in the finals and have a long-standing rivalry. Toss in that LeBron was with the Cavs and the Heat and back to the Cavs and had to face Boston numerous times in the playoffs, sometimes losing, but oftentimes beating them, which then adds to the rivalry. He's not going to Boston. Number 7, Dallas Mavericks. Dallas has one of LeBron's friends and a player he previously won with, Kyrie Irving. That could be a huge draw. We already know LeBron wanted the Lakers to trade Westbrook for Irving back in the 2022 offseason. It didn't happen. Add in Cooper Flagg, and he seems to be the real deal after just playing his first year and being 19 years old. He averaged 21 points and has the potential to be a franchise player. Dallas also features some intriguing talent to pair with LeBron in center Derek Lively and forward PJ Washington. But ultimately, they are a rebuilding team and not a 41-year-old LeBron away from contention. Plus, going from the LA lifestyle to Dallas would be a big change. I don't want to see him there, and I don't think he's going to go there. Next up, at number 6, is the Miami Heat. It'd be cool to see the best players on the roster and the main ball handlers all being 6'9" and above in LeBron, Giannis, and Bam. But the lack of shooting still concerns me. LeBron shoots in the mid-30% range from three-pointers. And then Bam and Giannis both hover around 32 to 37, and that's a big concern. They have Wiggins, Mitchell, and just acquired Tim Hardaway Jr., who all shoot about 36 to 40% from deep. But with Giannis and Bam sharing the court and not really being a threat from deep, the opposing team will probably play off those two and guard the others closer to the line and possibly crowd the paint to not give up easy driving lanes. The fit isn't seamless, and he's already there and went to 4 straight finals with 2 rings. It'd be fun to see LeBron, Bam, and Giannis operate the pick and roll, has some amazing fast break dunks. The lifestyle of LA is pretty similar to that of Miami, and he still has some personal connections there. But I think the Heat are probably a year away from really competing, and they have some more roster holes to address before being one piece away. Number 5, the Golden State Warriors. Now, many have joked that this would be the AARP Warriors since LeBron's 41, turns 42 at the end of December, Curry's 38, Draymond's 36, Horford's 40, Butler's 36, will be turning 37 by the start of the season, and he's coming off a torn ACL. And Kristaps Porzingis is the youngest player at 30 years old, but probably has the longest injury history. Older teams led by multiple veteran players isn't the winning formula in the NBA anymore. To win, you have a core of younger guys in their late 20s or early 30s, and a few older vets sprinkled in for knowledge and whatnot. Steph has missed parts of the last few seasons with injuries. LeBron missed the start of last season with sciatica. Draymond usually gets suspended a couple games, and Porzingis is definitely going to miss time. And Horford also missed time last year with injuries. So they will need depth to lean on for guys missing time, and more likely than not, multiple guys out at the same time. Would LeBron want to join Steph's team and then shoulder the blame if they miss the playoffs or get bounced early on? I mean, we all know we all know that that's how the narrative is going to go, since the media never really blames Curry for missing playoffs or not advancing far. Another narrative that will be pushed is KD and Steph went to 3 straight finals, won back-to-back. Why couldn't LeBron do that with Steph? It's completely idiotic and nonsensical, but we know people will push it out there. And I can definitely see Mr. Portnoy, Skip Bayless, and Stephen A. Smith being prime candidates for that line of thinking. But I do think LeBron would be very successful in the Warriors system. It's all about ball movement, players moving without the ball. He could drive towards the basket, kick it out to Curry for an open 3, watch it splash in, and then both do the night-night celebration down the court. I can already picture it. Watching LeBron and Steph play together would be fun, and as LeBron put it, it would be the purest form of basketball. but I don't think they're a trade away from really contending for a championship. They've been linked to Anthony Davis, who played with LeBron in LA, and at the Olympics with Curry and LeBron. Davis is 33, but he's also had bad injury luck. LeBron choosing the Warriors would be fun to watch as a fan, would be must-see TV, and receive a ton of national hype and coverage. And if you play NBA 2K, it'd be a pretty unbeatable team. But really, they wouldn't compete for a title. And that's all right. And that may not be what LeBron's thinking. That may not be his top priority. It has come out that the Warriors may have been used as leverage early on with their documented interest. LeBron being connected with Draymond and Curry in the past. So we'll see how it plays out. Part of me thinks LeBron is debating between the Warriors and the Cavs. The Cavs been there, done that, but a nice ending to his storybook career. The Warriors literally just to play with Steph. But we'll see how it goes. I wouldn't be mad with him picking the Warriors. I think it'd be just amazing to watch. Next up at number 4 is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And as we talked about already, they traded for LaMelo Ball. The Wolves have pushed all their chips in. And could they get LeBron by doing that? If they get LeBron, they would become in the upper tier of basketball teams. Going from LA to Minnesota could be a bit of a shock, but from a pure basketball perspective, it could be a clean fit. The Timberwolves in the past 3 seasons made the Western Conference Finals twice, and this year lost in the semifinals round, but mostly due to Ant being injured and not himself. 2 seasons ago, the Thunder were able to double Edwards since the Wolves lacked a secondary scorer. And unsurprisingly, the Spurs did the same thing this year, and it ended with the same result. But the Wolves addressed that issue by trading for LaMelo. I know I was harsh on Ball, but he has to show he is mature enough to come through in the postseason, and I think the culture of the Wolves can do that. But with the trade that the Wolves have done, they have lost some depth and length at their forward positions. They still have Jaden McDaniels, who showed out this past postseason, and Rudy, who's a lockdown rim protector, but doesn't have the high offensive upside. You could just plug in LeBron at power forward and have a starting lineup of LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, LeBron, and Rudy. That team would have elite shot making with Ball and Edwards, and that would allow LeBron to pick his spots and the ability to dish the ball to other shot makers. And with the defensive abilities of Edwards, McDaniels, and Rudy, LeBron doesn't have to lock in every single possession. He can just play lockdown defense in critical moments of the game. He wouldn't have to carry the team night in and night out, because that would be up to LaMelo and Anthony Edwards. And he can save his best for May/June for a finals run. LeBron's also a fan of Ants. They played together during the 2024 Olympics. Edwards has also become an elite 3-level scorer by getting to the rim. His post-game and mid-range shots are dramatically better, and he's pretty good from 3. If that reminds you of any other previous LeBron teammate, I think it should. And his name is Kyrie Irving. And you exactly thought what I was picturing. You take some of those playmaking duties away from Edwards, and he'll be a lethal weapon for LeBron and LaMelo Ball. And on the legacy note, the Wolves have never won a championship. Being able to go to Minnesota and deliver a championship to a 4th team, winning his 5th ring overall, that would definitely cement him as the GOAT. Going to 4 different teams, winning rings on each team, would be a feat that we haven't seen before. He's already the first to win 3 championships and 3 finals MVPs with 3 different franchises. Adding another would be crazy. I don't really think he's going to be the finals MVP. It would probably be Anthony Edwards, but you never know. 3rd on this list, Philadelphia 76ers. They just traded for Jaylen Brown, who's a former finals MVP, and the 76ers have a history of making the playoffs lately. Since the 2017-2018 season, they've made the playoffs every year but one. Unfortunately, though, they get bounced in the semifinals. The last time they made the conference finals was back in 2000-2001 season, where they actually made the finals but lost to the Lakers. Their lineup of Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, LeBron is power forward, and then Embiid. That lineup features the most talented starting lineup out of the 8 teams, but also comes with question marks. Joel Embiid has not played more than 40 games in the regular season for the last 3 seasons, meaning the backup center's really a co-starter since Embiid's going to probably miss half the season. The backup player, though, is an unproven player, so a little concern there. And the other players will definitely have to step up and make up for it. NBA insider Brian Windhorst did say if a team wanted to make a big move to get LeBron's attention, Jaylen Brown was available for trade. And then Philly went out and got the trade done. Is that really enough to get LeBron's attention and sway the pendulum towards the 76ers? Time's going to tell. But the fit from a basketball perspective is there. Now, Philly hasn't won a ring since 1983, so about a 43-year-old drought. He could be the savior for the 76ers if he came and played with them and then they won. It would still be the same concept of a 4th ring on a 4th team, and he could become beloved in Philly. On another note, Tyrese Maxey's agent is Rich Paul, a.k.a. Clutch Sports, a.k.a. the same as LeBron's. That could be impactful. Philly, I think, is the best starting 5 with LeBron, but they lack depth, have a possible issue with how to split up ball handling responsibilities. All of Maxey, Brown, and LeBron are high usage players, and when Embiid is healthy, he is too. Could they make it work? Yeah. But there would be growing pains for sure, and watching players just stand in the corner and wait for the ball. Now, second on the list of potential LeBron fits, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know I've been saying it would be a great ending to his career. It would be that storybook ending, to end it where it all started. And if the team looked the same as they did when they got swept in the playoffs, the Cavs would probably have been my number 1 spot. But they've lost a few pieces, and a soon-to-be 42-year-old LeBron doesn't fix those. Cleveland had wing defenders in Dean Wade, who's now with Philly, and Keon Ellis, who went to the Nets. They may have to trade Max Strus and Dennis Schroeder to help offer LeBron a contract that's more than the league minimum. So more defensive players would be leaving. The starting 5 for Cleveland would be James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. That would be the best front court that LeBron has ever played with. Having Allen and Mobley back there protecting the paint on one end and catching lobs on the other would be an absolute joy to watch. Has a high potential for a lot of fast break points. The same ball handling issues that came up with Philly would come up with the Cavs. James Harden's more of a distributor now, but still plays iso ball from time to time. Mitchell thrives with the ball in his hands, and we all know LeBron controls the pace of games and is currently 4th all-time in assists. And just playing this year, he's going to become 3rd. So he's used to having the ball. There are rumors floating around that Cleveland could sign and trade James Harden for Kyrie Irving to pair him back up with LeBron. But it does take 2 to tango, and the Mavericks haven't shown interest in trading Irving and may not want to get into the Harden business. The allure of the Cavs isn't just their roster and solid starting 5, but they were the team that drafted LeBron out of high school. He was born in Akron, Ohio, so it's his hometown team. GM Kobe Altman was with the Cavs during LeBron's second stint there. The assistant general manager, Brandon Weems, was actually LeBron's high school teammate. There's a ton of personal connections, memories, and reasons to come back to Cleveland, and it could be the storybook ending we all hope for. Going back to the possibility of winning a championship, the Cavs were just in the Eastern Conference Finals, and yes, they did get swept. And yes, they lost on defensive players, but adding LeBron to the roster will make them better, and maybe get the best out of Harden and Mitchell. those two seemed to fade down the stretch of the playoffs. And what better way to end a career than winning for your hometown team the second championship and being the guy who got Harden his first ever ring? The Cavs could also trade Jarrett Allen for some more shooting or a 3-and-D player if LeBron does end up signing there. That would allow more spacing and take some defensive responsibility off of Harden, Mitchell, and LeBron. Now, number one on my I hope LeBron goes there list, the Denver Nuggets. Now, I know if you went to my Twitter, the Solo Sideline, and looked at my replies, you would see me bashing the Nuggets and their fans. Not just a little bit, but quite a bit. I'm a Denver Bronco fan, but can't stand the Denver Nuggets and the media clamoring over them. The reasons are pretty simple. I'm a LeBron fan, so I was a Laker fan. After the bubble, where LA beat the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals series in a 4-1 series, and then winning the title, the Nuggets have beaten the Lakers, unfortunately, famously sweeping them in the Western Conference Finals 3 years later on their way to their first ever championship. Their ex-coach, Mike Malone, was a cocky guy, and I'm a cocky guy, so maybe cocky guys don't like each other. And media member Vic Lombardi. Now, Vic called the Nuggets the Lakers' daddy during the parade. It did bother me, but it should really be a compliment since the Lakers were still on their mind and in their head and not even playing them in the finals. But going back to the fit with LeBron and the Nuggets have the best player on their team from the list of 8 realistic teams, Nikola Jokic. He is a 3-time MVP winner. He averages a triple-double. He's a gifted passer, has high basketball IQ, and he's a center. Now, the Nuggets starting 5 would be Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, LeBron James, Aaron Gordon, and Jokic. Fun fact about that starting 5. 3 of those 5 players would be represented by Clutch. Again, LeBron's same agency. Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, already represented by Clutch, and you add in LeBron. Now, this is a team that has a little bit of everything. The Nuggets were actually the best offensive team in the NBA last season, so adding LeBron to that would only improve it. James wouldn't have to carry the offensive load either. Jokic and Murray would do that, just like the Wolves with LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards. He would be able to pick his shots and choose his spots. He could actually alleviate some of the burden on Jokic to keep him fresh for the playoffs. And Aaron Gordon is an athletic big who's great defensively with his strength and length. Jokic isn't a lockdown center, but is a big body that can get in the way. A key free agent that the Nuggets have is Peyton Watson, who's a good 3-and-D player that hopefully Denver can retain to entice LeBron to sign there. Another fun fact, Watson's also represented by Clutch Sports, a.k.a. LeBron's agent. Clutch may be including Denver in this list as a way to get their client Watson paid, but it could be legit too. To be fair, I listened to some Denver podcasts, and a media insider who's pretty good with Denver news breaking said that the temperature of LeBron's interest in the Nuggets is warm. It's not hot like Phoenix, like the Phoenix Sun, but it's not cold. It's warm. He thinks that the Nuggets are actually one of LeBron's top 3 teams. So that's interesting. Denver's owners are also friends of LeBron's, and LeBron was seen yachting with Jokic's agent last summer, and rumors circulated about them teaming up. But what the meeting was actually about was starting a new European basketball league. So there's already connections in place. Maybe conversations were had secretly. Now, those connections aren't as established or as personal as Cleveland, but there are connections in place. Now, LeBron hasn't played with a player of Jokic's caliber before, and we know LeBron loves to play with other high basketball IQ players. When Rondo and LeBron were on the same team, LeBron loved it. When LeBron had a center like Jokic in Marc Gasol for a year or so, LeBron loved his court vision and playmaking ability. You match LeBron with Jokic, it could be amazing to watch, as both would just know the right play to run, where to be, where to get others lined up, and then execute said play. The Nuggets have won the most recent championship from the teams on the list, but that's been their only championship in team history. And with a player of Jokic's caliber, you can't waste his prime years. The Nuggets should go all in and get LeBron. Getting LeBron would also push the Nuggets more into the national spotlight, something they aren't really already in. They're not talked about on sports shows. Any team that's going to get LeBron is going to be talked daily on all shows, ESPN, Fox Sports, and other major networks. LeBron could win his 5th overall ring with a 4th franchise for the franchise's 2nd overall championship, and that would be a big deal in Denver. Now going through all 8 realistic teams that were on the whiteboard, I'm going to predict which one I think LeBron's going to go to. I think he's going to end up going to the Cavaliers. Play 2 seasons there, retire after his 25th season with 5 rings. The Cavs would also trade for Bronny, and Bryce will declare for the draft next season, and LeBron will share the court with both of his sons in the uniform that first drafted him and is his hometown team. If that's not a Hallmark movie, I don't know what is. That brings us to the end of the pod. I hope you enjoyed your time listening to me talk sports, share my opinions and thoughts with you all. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other services. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at the Solo Sideline. And just a reminder, there won't be a new episode for a few weeks, taking a few weeks off. Definitely will come back in August and share some updates with you all and go from there. Thank you.